What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be going over the C7 Corvette splitter install. It's going to give you this monster 5-inch stick out on the ZR1. We also have a smaller profile that's going to go onto your base model Corvettes and your Z06 Corvettes, and that one's going to install exactly the same. So let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is remove the bumper. Now these C7 Corvette are actually pretty easy to install. Most of these parts just snap on. There are some screws across the top of the, I guess you call it where the hood meets the bumper. There's some screws under there. There's also some screws on the plastic shrouds around the tires. So you're going to want to take those off, and the bumper will just simply pop off like that. With the bumper removed, you're going to want to get your car looking like this. There's a plastic bumper in the front and some shrouds underneath. You're going to want to remove all those guys and get it looking exactly like this. First thing you do is grab your sturdy boy, the upper pylon part. It's going to have a long dog leg on it and 3 bolt holes. Basically look like that. You're going to line it up, those 3 bolt holes, and you're going to use those as a scribe mark. So line up that little dog leg piece and make sure it's sitting flush on top of the bumper. And that's going to tell you where exactly you should mount everything. So once that dog leg piece is up and pressed against the extruded aluminum part of the bumper, use a marker and mark out your holes. You're going to be drilling these guys out. Now for us, the kit's going to come with some M6 riv nuts. We find it's best to use a step bit and kind of take each step until the riv nut will fit snugly inside. But yeah, step bits are pretty good for this kind of work, just because you're always going to get that right size. So right there, we were a little bit small. Go in, chase it out, next hole bigger. The bumper itself is made out of aluminum, so it takes this pretty well. Go ahead and use your M6 riv nut tool. It's a must-own tool for any Corvette owner. It really makes life easy. Do make sure that you're going to be using an M6 arbor. That's kind of the one tricky part that might not be included in every riv nut tool, but yeah, all of ours are M6, so that way you're going to be using a 10mm socket to attach everything. It's going to be a couple different bolts, and they're all going to be a 10mm for you. Go ahead and chase it out and repeat the riv nutting process on the 3 holes that you marked on the bottom there. That one's coming out a little bit tight. If it is tight, you can kind of use the riv nut tool itself to force that riv nut in. Kind of that one, we're giving it a little bang to go. That's going to be a really tight fit, and the tighter the fit is, the stronger the connection is going to be. Not that any of these, even if you drill a little bit too big, it's not going to be the end of the world. The riv nuts themselves grow a good amount. And on to the last one there. Go ahead and repeat the process on the other side. Of course, it's 3 riv nuts in the bumper on each side. You can see on this one, he had the test car that we had an extra oil cooler suspended. We went ahead and we just went right over that. That's not going to make much difference at all. We have lots of adjustment built in. So here we get a really good shot of the upper pylon design. You can see the dog leg on the right. That's going to be ensuring that you have the proper height, and then of course clearance for the plastic bumper you're going to want to reinstall, and the tow hook. Go ahead and put your bolts back in, tighten them back. And you want to tighten these not too much, just a decent amount of firmness on it. You're going to have a bunch of adjustments coming in here in a little bit. Now you're going to notice this funky bolt pattern on the upper pylon. It looks kind of like Swiss cheese, but what it is 2 bolt holes will always line up at half-degree increments. So right there at the totally downward, it's 2 degrees, I want to say, and then each one up to 1.5, 1 degrees, 0 degrees, all the way up. And in case you didn't see it too well on that side, here's on the other way. So 2 bolt holes are always going to line up in half-degree increments. And that's going to allow you to get the splitter height to meet with any bumper or any lip kit that you're using. Now, it is always a good idea to, that's how you're going to set your splitter height, and it is a good idea to set it low for maximum performance, or you want to have it brought up a little bit to live a little bit longer. We're always kind of debating which is better. Do you want your splitter to live forever, or do you want it to work really good? And that's really a choice up to the end user to figure out what's best for them. Now, we do build our splitter kits to be inexpensive, so if you do destroy one, you won't have to cry too bad. But yeah, just always something you need to keep in consideration is your splitter height and your relation to the ground. Now, on this side, you just want to do exactly the same. You're going to move away some plastic trim that's going to be ducting some air into your radiator. You won't need to cut it, we just need to move it out of the way. And want to spin those wrenches right back in. Let's speed this up. Yeah, it's better. Okay, now your upper pylons are installed. It's time to move on to the splitter. So what we're going to do here is we have our splitter lower pylon, which you can see here, the long leg is going to go rear to the back of the car. And we're just going to drop some screws in on the top. Now these are T-nuts. They insert on the bottom. You can kind of see me giving a little bit of a run on that one. And these just thread on the bottom. And you're going to use the supplied bolts and hardware to pull them through. So get them all on first. You'll see here. And then I'm going to throw an impact on the top. See us running them home up there. And they're going to pull in nice and flush with the bottom of the splitter. Now normally it'd be using rivets on this. You can kind of see I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting around the bolts. That's not going to be a case on the production unit. Those are going to be riveted together. But what we're doing is we run them in, pull those things up, and then loosen them up so you can slide the lower pylons around. Those pylons sliding around are really going to help you out installing the splitter kit in a little bit of the future. You can see here we're doing the same, load them up. And you'll see on the bottom how they actually get pulled through. Once they get started, run those guys in, pull them through. The bolts will stick out a little bit. Some people don't like those. The bolts stick through, which is fine. You can run them down with a zip gun. We need to leave the bolts long so that way they can actually grip the T-nut. But on my personal cars, whenever I run it, I leave them long. They have a tendency to save the splitter if you come into contact with the ground, so that those will get ground down first, and you kind of get a bunch of leeway on that. Next, you're going to go underneath the car, and you're going to find these 3 bolt holes and grab your splitter. Those bolt holes are going to be attached to something. You're going to want to remove it, and just go ahead, and the splitter will bolt directly into your car. That point on the back of the car is a pivot. So when you start adjusting the height of your bolt holes that we were looking at earlier, you know, that crazy Swiss cheese bolt pattern that we had, they will pivot around these 3 bolts that we're putting in. Go ahead and speed that up a little bit. Go ahead and get them in, and don't make them too tight, just snug. We're going to tighten up everything last. So now you can see the splitter is hanging at the correct position. We're going to go ahead and lift it up. And now at this point, you're going to just sneak 2 bolts in. No need to put nuts behind them. Just throw a couple bolts in so that way it supports the weight of the splitter. And this is also a point where you probably want to grab your bumper and get that splitter height set really nicely to meet up underneath the bumper. You want a good and tight fit underneath the car. So go ahead and throw those on, and then you're going to want to throw a nut on the back of them. These are all serrated nut bolts, which makes it nice. You only really have to tighten one side or the other. So if you can get a nut on there and it's kind of giving you a bit of a fuss, you just throw a 10mm socket on the other side, tighten it down, and it should be good to go. Get a little bit of warp speed here, get it sped up. Right there you can see that I don't even have a wrench on the other side, so you can tighten these with one hand. It's a really nice benefit. Now at this point, the splitter is on. Now you want to start tightening everything up. You can see I'm going through and tightening the T-nuts the rest of the way down. And I move to the other side, throw the nuts on that. As you're looking at this, you can kind of see that all the pieces are raw aluminum. That's not how the kit will be shipped. These are prototypes, and they're going to come out black. You'll never see them when they're done, but for video purposes and what we got going on, the aluminum one, the raw aluminum was the best choice. It was a really nice contrast, so you can see what we're doing. Yep, go ahead and fly under there, tighten everything up. You can see the little air diverter is pushed a little bit out of the way, but you can kind of pick it up and put it right back where it was. Run underneath, tighten those 3 bolts in the back of the splitter. Now we're going to go on to the side supports. This is going to stop the edges of the splitter from falling and scraping the ground when it's making downforce. Again, we really like that step bit. It works really nice. They're inexpensive, and this is your bracket for keeping up the side. It's a slide pin style, and you're going to want to drill that little hole up on top. Is sometimes there on some cars, and it's sometimes not there on some cars. So if it's not there, don't be alarmed. You got to throw a small 1/4-inch hole into it, and it's where it is located exactly is not the end of the world. Just use the slide pin side support and kind of get it in place comfortably, and just go ahead and drill your hole, and you'll be good to go on there. This whole kit, we only have to drill 1 hole, which is very nice. And then go ahead and get your T-nut in, and go ahead and now notice that slide pin goes through the hole in the splitter, or in the air shroud. So you don't have to even drill your air shrouds on these things. Once it's in, go ahead and tighten it up. The splitter should be nice and flat, and get everything tight. Now on this side, there's already a screw on this side, so we can go ahead and utilize that. Just go ahead and tighten that down. Yep, and as soon as you get the good height, tighten everything up and she'll be good to go. Once the splitter's on, you can see it like that. That's exactly how it's supposed to go. Give it a little test. So jump on up there. You know, the splitter's gonna be making a few 100 pounds of downforce. 240 pounds here shouldn't be a problem for it, but it's gonna be a good test for you to see if you got some problems going on somewhere. Finally, we're gonna go ahead and grab the OEM bumper. One thing to note, there is a plastic bumper that should be on the front of these cars. Looks like somebody removed it off of this one, but we really recommend you putting that crash structure back on. That's going to be a big safety thing, and our kit is built to go around it, so it might take a little bit of trimming, but yeah, it's worth the effort to put that back. We push the bumper back on, snap everything down. The sides might be lifted a little bit and might be tweaking some things. If that's the case, go ahead and lower your splitter down again, and lower it until it fits good. On that's the splitter install kit. If you got any questions, shoot us an email or chat on our website, and we'll be able to help you out. Thanks.